And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
The Witches is based on a Terry Pratchett novel, or his whole series actually, and it's designed by Mark Wallace, produced by Mayfair Games. This is the third Discworld game that I know about. There's Ankh-Morpork, which was also designed by Mark Wallace, and then there was Discworld, I believe the board game, I forget what that one was called, but it wasn't that good. This one, The Witches, is a third game, and it's based on the part of Discworld that I don't know much about. I'm more of a Guards, that was the name of the second game, Guards. I'm more of the guy who likes reading about the guards in Discworld. I haven't read so much about these. However, it makes a good basis for a game, comes with a really beautiful board, it's designed by a very well-known designer. Does any of that equal good? Let's see. Okay, here's the board, which has a bunch of tiles that are set up on it at the beginning. There are green tiles that are placed face up. These are easy problems. And then you have difficult problems, which are purple tiles, and these are placed face down. Both of them are randomized, and they have different things. Let's just show you an example of some easy problems here. Death and pregnancy. Okay, well, whatever. These are worth victory points if you solve these problems at the end of the game. And also they have a difficulty number, so obviously death is a little bit more difficult to deal with than pregnancy. Alright, so if you go here to, you can see that there's different locations all over the board. There's the Long Man, and up there's the caves, and they're connected by roads. And what players are going to be doing is each player is going to take a witch, a training witch, and they get the board, and each training witch has a special ability. For example, she starts with a magic tile and a cackle counter. Although the yellow player's ability is, you go first, which I don't really know how that's that great of an ability. Each witch takes a traffic cone, a witch hat, and you'll be moving these pieces on the board. On your turn, you have two movements that you can take. You can move from one spot to another. You cannot move through a problem when you get to it, and you can't move through another witch either. So if you get to them, you have to stop. However, players are going to start with a handful of 3 cards. And if you take a look at these cards, at the top of some of the cards, you will see that there is a witch token there. And if you play one of those cards, you ignore everything else on the card, and you can fly anywhere you want to on the board. When you try to solve a problem, let's say I go to a spot with a broken limb on it. I'll say, okay, I'm going to solve the problem. I'll roll 2 dice first to see if I've solved this problem. Now, I've rolled really well here. I've gotten a 10. If you roll a witch's side, you will get a cackle a token, which you don't want, and that also counts as a 0. So let's say I've rolled this. I have a total of 4. Then after you roll these 2 dice, you're allowed to play as many cards from your hand to add to the total. Any card that shows these 2 magic symbols at the top adds 2 points to your total, but it also gives you a cackle token, and any faceology symbol gives you 1 and doesn't. So let's say I play both of these. I have 4 plus 3 is now 7. I then roll my remaining 2 dice. Plus 10 is 17. 17 passes. I have solved the broken limb. I take it off the board, and I put it onto my player board. Now, as you add tiles to your playing board, you add them in pairs of 2, these easy tiles. And on each pair of 2 lets you increase your hand size. You always draw up to your hand size at the end of a round. So while I start with a hand size of 3, once I solve 4 easy problems, I have a hand size of 5. Difficult problems get added to the bottom. Every 2 of those that you do gives you +1 on future problems. Although you'll notice that difficult problems have much higher numbers. You can see here that these 2 have a difficulty of 16 and 18, although they're worth more points at the end of the game. Many of the difficult problems also have alternate things that might happen if you try to do them and fail. Usually if you try to do them and fail, no big deal, but there's a whole sheet in the rules that tells you what to happen. In fact, if 3 of the elf problems are ever face up on the board, here's elves, and 3 of the other there's 3 elves total on the board, everybody loses. Before each player's turn, they'll turn over the top card in the deck to see where they will add another problem. This one gets added to the place where the sun does not shine. So I look on the board and I find that, and I would add the next tile on from the stacks on the bottom to that spot. However, the place where the sun does not shine already has a problem. Apparently there's 6 sheep there. So instead of adding a tile, I add a +2 difficulty token to this spot. And then I draw another card. The next card I draw says black glass. So I look on the board for black glass, and I go over here, and that one also has a problem tile. So that one also gets a +2. And then I draw again. Now, Lankertown. And Lankertown has spots for 3 tiles, so fortunately, the next tile will be added to that spot. Oops, purple tiles are placed face down. And then you take your turn. So you got to be careful, because if you ever have to put out a +2 token, and there is none, then all the players lose. Cackle tokens can be annoying. You take them for rolling the cackles, you take them when you play magic cards, and other reasons we'll give them to you. If you run out of cackle tokens and you need to take some, you take them from the player who has the most. If you're the one who has the most and you need to take more, then you need to take a Black Elise token, which is worth -1 at the end of the game. You certainly don't want these. So you try to get rid of them. One of the ways to get rid of them is when you move into a spot with another witch, you can have tea. You get rid of 3 cackle tokens, and the people you're having tea with will get rid of 2 each. The game will progress until either all the tiles are gone here at the bottom, in which case everyone counts up their points from all the tiles that they have, and whoever has most points is the winner. Otherwise, if you need to put out one of these +2 tiles, or there are 3 elves on the board, everybody loses. Then I should mention that the cards, besides the symbols at the top and locations at the bottom, all have special abilities on them. Like this removes a crisis counter from a problem of your choice. But there's also some cards that say power of 3 on them. If you ever have 3 power of 3s, you can solve any problem on the board. As long as they're different people, you can play 3 of them to solve any problem you want. And that's it. Okay, so in this game, the first thing I realized after playing it was, wow, this is a low-level complexity game. It looks complex, but really all you're doing is moving around, rolling dice, getting things. The game is incredibly simplistic. That's okay. It just wasn't kind of what I was expecting. Martin Wallace usually designs games that are more complex. I think that's a good thing in one sense, because if someone is a fan of the series and they come play this game and they've not played many games, they're going to enjoy that. But for gamers, you need to beware, because this game is not nearly as heavy as you might expect it to be. Like I said, the components, the artwork is really well done. Everything's laid out easily. It is pretty easy, if you're not being careful, for everyone to lose. Not a huge fan of that mechanism in the game, and I'll tell you why. Because if one person realizes that someone else is doing better, what benefit is it them to help everybody? They can kind of like drag their feet and waste their turns. And if one player wastes their turns and doesn't tackle problems, a problem is coming out every turn. Okay? Those +2 things are going to show up every turn after a while if you don't take care of these problems. It's really easy for people to lose the game, and one person, if they're not doing their best, can kind of hurry that along. So I'm not sure why that was put in the game. I mean, I guess it gives you a thing that you have to go around and solve these problems, but weren't you going to go around and solve them anyway? I don't know. And also, the only other thing I would say is, for all the negative problems that have diverse effects, that's a page in the rule book here, and I would have preferred that also maybe condensed on a card somewhere, because, I mean, you need to see what happens. Like, if you lose to the Hiver, you take a Black Elise tile. If you lose to the Wintersmith, everyone has to lose an easy problem tile. If you lose to the Cunning Man, all the witches go to the dungeon, and you have to find out how to escape from the dungeon. And those are like extra little rules which kind of break the flow of the game, and you have to look them up. But as it is, it's easy. The cool mechanic in the game is rolling 2 dice, then playing cards, and rolling the next 2 dice. That's a cool thing. I'd like to see that implement in other games. Although, there's a lot of cards that the text on them says, maybe played after you roll all 4 dice. And I was like, well, why even put those in the game if, that kind of takes away from the coolness of playing the cards between the 2 dice rolls. No, this game's not for me, okay? But that's on a personal level. I just find it too easy. It feels like a dungeon quest in a sense. You go around, I solve the problems, I'm getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and I go solve the big problem. But it was too easy. There was tension, kind of, as you roll dice and play cards, but it didn't feel like there was a lot of strategy. Like, I will go solve this problem. Roll dice. I will go solve this problem. But I can see a lot of people enjoying the game for that thing. And because there's a lot of flavor in the cards, the artwork is well done, and so people who like the story. So, this is a good game for beginner gamers. I think, though, that most hardcore gamers, and for sure won't like it, but even gamers who like to play all realms of Spectrum like myself, even I thought this one was a little too simple for what I wanted. But I'm glad it exists because it might be a good way to get people into the hobby. The Witches.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
There.